Get ready for some wasted words. Just me this episode. So, I'm kind of just sort of talking into the void today. This may be. I have a prediction that this is either the worst episode or the last. No, I'm just kidding. I was wondering if this will probably be like a really goofy episode just because I am literally talking to nobody except for, you guys, not to break the illusion. But, real different. There's nobody to stop me from rambling, which maybe is a good thing. We'll see. We'll see what stays. We'll see if anything gets the karate chop. But yeah, this is pretty cool. So let me know if one guy. I mean, the joke is there should be a tariff on podcasting equipment because stuff like this. So this is the first episode with 0 women in the crew, including producer slash guest as representation, RIP. So that is a bit of a bummer, but so anyways it's weird because I think for someone like me who is I mean, I'm definitely an extrovert, but there were periods of my life where I didn't know if I was an extrovert, only because you know you sort of doubt it when you're a little younger, because honestly the biggest thing was I'm not great at like public speaking. But that's partly because in school um I would always not prepare well for my speeches, so they were bad for a reason. But also just like in general, public speaking tended to give me more I had more anxiety around it just because it was so high, or seemingly so high stakes. um but uh whereas I think to me it was always like someone I always found it easier to just sort of this might just be existence, but to talk in like um a very impromptu way, whereas some people may find it a lot easier to speak with more of like a predefined idea of what they're going to say. A lot of my issue is that I'll start a sentence, won't know where it's going. But recently I found out that like one of the hard definitions of extrovert versus introvert is literally um extroverts often gain energy through social interactions, whereas introverts often drain. Their social battery is drained, which learning that, it makes a lot more sense. I didn't even think about this, but like I'll go into settings at half social battery and find myself like boom 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 boom. I'm like, this is so much fun, versus um my girlfriend, who is a self-proclaimed introvert, says she always wants to be at a reasonable level of social battery where like she is able to operate in a in like a, I don't know what the right word is, cuz I'm trying to speak on it with um no personal like I have a hard time sitting in introvert shoes because I've lived my entire life an extrovert, not entirely realizing like how much of an extrovert I am. But um I think when I was younger, honestly, I had a theory recently that the reason I didn't know if I was an introvert or an extrovert is because I often had a hard time talking to parents because I would always get shy about that. Whereas like looking back in like elementary school, if I was myself as a third grader, I always had a really easy time like yucking it up with my fellow third graders. So I think if anything, me becoming more extroverted has almost be become because jeez, has almost started has become more apparent because I am older, and so the people I'm talking to are now less old to me. So like, I may be talking to a 35-year-old teacher when I'm a third grader, but now that I'm 24, you're like, that's not even half my age. That difference. So like, I know it's you're not allowed to say we've lived the same life, but like 35 to 24, that's actually a good point. How much wiser do you think is wisdom fake? I think wisdom is almost entirely like not a mask, but wisdom is almost entirely um a what's the word? Wisdom is almost entirely like a not a facade, like almost I think wisdom is 90% aesthetic. Like if you see someone with a long beard and some like semi scratched up glasses, or maybe even someone that's bald, um or like, someone that has wrinkles, or even just almost someone that's like careful with their words and very diligent with what they say. I mean, I think this is a very roundabout way to describe wisdom, but like I think you can meet really wise people without thinking they're wise, because they're presenting in a more jovial you know layer. Like you may meet someone who's gone through a lot and may be like the best person to talk to about something, but you may be hesitant because uh they like to joke around, or maybe they're more explosive with their words. So how did I even get here? But this episode is somewhat experimental. It's definitely situational. The producer is dog sitting. Shout out doggies. Uh, and our guest, our guest was not able to make it, so we persevere. But that's fun. But it is a little experimental where I'm like, what does this look like? Maybe we just pop out once a month, man. That seems rough. I are we are we losing people? So you guys will have to let me know if you think the one man show is a little sad. I'm gonna try to keep it positive, because I do like this, like it's sort of some when things are novel. I feel more of like I have an easier time jumping into it to a certain extent. So like often at a new job, even I'm very excited to like learn new things, versus um I come into work a month later and I may be like, I already know how to make coffee with the coffee machine, blah 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 blah. But it's always fun to like try new things, learn new things. That was actually one of, I think uh, that has been my New Year's resolution for like the past 4 years. I've always wanted to get better at trying new things, because that's one of the things I'm a really hard time jumping into new things, because I'm always like worried I'm gonna be really bad at it. Slash, I don't want to spend a bunch of money on a new hobby. Um, and that's partly what this podcast is. This is like, it's a lot more time than I thought it would take. It's gotten more efficient, but like it's one of those things where for the longest, I think this generation has the hardest time not going on their phones because they don't know better. Um, this generation, I think, has a really hard time. Like there's sort of a um what's the word for like no producer, what's the word for this? I can't think of the word. What's the word for like when you there's something sweeping the nation, like an epidemic. There's an epidemic, I think, of a lot of people having a really hard time having hobbies. And I actually saw something recently um that it was like some researcher was talking about how a lot of people see location, and I'm going to butcher this paraphrase, but a lot of people's C location is sort of being diminished, where basically this researcher was saying, um, back in the day, people would spend a certain amount of time at their A location, which may be their house, a certain amount of time at their B location, which would be their work, and then with hobbies, their C location may be they would go to the soccer field to play soccer, or maybe they go that their C location is sort of just a hobby. Like I'm gonna go to a lake to fish. I don't fish, but if you fish, that could be your C location. People that love fishing will that maybe that's their C location. Um, so there's somewhat of an epidemic of people not knowing how to spend their time in a productive way. I don't know how to say productive because some people may say like hobbies. There's a lot of people argue about what productivity means. If you're I think if you're adding to your enjoyment of life, I think that's productive. Some people may argue if it's not like creating money, that's not productive. So to those people, it's the same amount of productivity as scroll on YouTube Shorts for 5 hours as it is to, try to learn how to fly fish for 5 hours. Or I need to try to be like more relatable. I do this because I have friends that fly fish. I don't do that. Um, so it's like the difference between uh going on TikTok for 3 hours versus um making a a scrapbook for 3 hours where you're able to look back at like the memories you had. Um, so I think it is very different, but like this has become, I think, one of my favorite recent hobbies just because it's so cool. Like I've never been great at creating things, partly because I don't know. I saw a video recently going back to introvert extrovert. I saw a video recently that was sort of like discussing how introverts versus extroverts run on different motivations, which I don't know if that's true or not. They said that extroverts fully run off of dopamine, whereas introverts, there's some other brain chemical. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, like, um, I feel like I don't, I don't have that. Where like often a lot of the things, um, where it would be like personal projects, I couldn't find the motivation to do it because so much of my enjoyment revolves around interacting with people, which like duh, I'm a fucking extrovert, but like who didn't know that except me apparently. So like doing this is a really good way of like connecting with people. I did that in quotes because it like feels very like cliche and a little corny, but like it is cool to me. um, but it's sort of been one of those things where I've been like, wow, because the epidemic sweeping the nation is what what do I do when I get off my phone? I went through this for like years of like I used to be better at like way more conscious about me trying not to take my phone out at in unproductive times, but like what do you do when you try to stop using your phone? I always just felt like I would throw my phone under my pillow, walk into another room and be like, now I'm sitting in a room doing nothing. And like, let yourself think for 30 seconds and you're like, this is the same. And it technically isn't brain chemistry wise. It technically isn't. You're not constantly feeding yourself dopamine. So maybe it's better. Like that brain break good, but like you do it for enough time and you just get bored and you find yourself wanting to do something, and the easiest thing to do is go back to the phone. But I always wanted to have a hobby to go back to so that I could spend time on that versus doing, I'm going to just say nothing so I don't have to keep like finding out a new way to say it, but like I think that's cool. And it's one of those things where like some people have hobbies that they have had forever. um and I think it's maybe, I don't know if this is true or not. I kind of want to say it, but maybe it's similar-ish to like me not fully understanding from the eyes of like an introvert, which that's fair. People live their own experiences, but like people that have hobbies for so long, I think have a hard time um like sympathizing with people that don't have hobbies because they're like, come on, just like pick up a ball. Like, what are you doing? Wasting your Saturday. That's the worst when you waste a weekend. So, also I promised you guys that I would have read a book by this episode. That is a lie. I gotta come clean. I am very close to the end of one book. I am not done with it. I started something else that I thought was more interesting. Uh, so shoot me, guilty. But in talking with one of my friends in the past, recently, I was chatting with one of my friends and we were joking. Somehow we got to the point where like calling. I always say I want to read this many books at the start of the year, and we like to refer to as the first period of the year where you have read 0 books. You are now a shelf virgin. So I am a shelf virgin until I finish my first book. So you know, I'm hoping I'm hoping to lose my shelf virginity soon. The 2026 shelf virginity. I'm hoping to lose my S card. I'm hoping to lose my SH card. Um, because that would be sick. And I think I'm sort of at a point where I'm like, these books are fun. Which on the up. I mean, just literally, this is literally just me talking to myself in a room. What's new? Um, so that's fun. I, yeah. I mean, sitting with myself in a room alone is very funny because I was just talking about how so much of um so much of my like life and enjoyment is fueled by like connecting with others, and I'm chilling here alone. But one thing that I didn't fully realize, like, I think being someone that just sort of like is like, oh my gosh, this is fun, blah 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 blah, is in college at one point. I was in a classroom. I will preface this by saying me and my group of friends growing up were very physical. Is that the right word? We were very like we were like, I think, more physical than maybe some male friend groups are, in the way that we would like really tackle each other and tickle each other, emphasis on the tickling each other. um and like we were also very inclusive with new members. This sounds so weird. This is a weird tickle cult. And I didn't realize socially that may be unacceptable. So in one of my first college lectures, I started like becoming friends with some of the people that sat around me. And before class started one day, I like leaned over and tried to tickle a guy, and he was like, "Dude, the fuck was that? We don't do that here." He didn't say that. He was just very shocked. And I was like, in that moment, I was like, "Oh, this is not a good look. Declan, come on, drill it in." So I waited. I didn't do that anymore in college with people that I didn't know super well. Um, but I mean, should that be socially acceptable? This is when I need a guess. Is I'm like, is that something that we want to discuss? Should we save that for our next guest? I'll ask my next guest that if you guys think that's socially acceptable. I think it should be more socially acceptable than it is. Is my qualm with today's world. One of my qualms with today's world is people need to be okay being tickled. Unless, it is causes you physical pain. You get some people will go way too hard into your armpits, and it's like rash city, bro. Um like turf, not turf, but like, you know, it's just sometimes you gotta. I found my issue is that it trained me to be a very aggressive tickler. I don't know how much time I want to spend on tickling. This is super strange. Um, but you know, I think just let me know. Let me know. Hey, let me know. One thing I did want to talk about was what is it inside? Is it just an American trait to want to spend so much money on food? I think this is like some people are more intrinsically motivated like to eat more food. Like I've heard like people talk about how certain people just have more of an affinity to want to eat food, and I think I am definitely one of those people. um just whew, we on the up. In terms of we on yeah, I don't know. So is that a thing? Like, what percent of the obviously part of it is just human nature, like from a biological survive. Whoo, try to sound dumb 5 times fast. From a biological survival standpoint, there is part of human nature to just want food, like especially really sugary food or fatty food. I think is just like this is the stuff that's gonna like keep me alive if I'm searching for more food in the next week. Um, but like when I go to the airport and I go to Popeyes and I spend like way too much than I should, I'm already paying for the ticket. I don't need to spend $30 to $40 on Popeyes for me and my girlfriend. That's something I will never do again. And then getting on the airplane way too stuffed, like literally I don't know what it is, but like I think it was like I was hungry and we hadn't really eaten breakfast and we landed on our connecting flight and I was like, this Popeyes is really screaming to me, is really calling to me. And I just want it. And partly my girlfriend had never tried Popeyes and I was like, we'll try it out. I definitely like I think the fried chicken more. Um, but so I was like, well, that's part of the issue. I was like, what if maybe we'll do this? We can try this, and then we can try this, and then if you like that, we can also try this. So it was just me kind of like, maybe we try this, and we also try this. But it was also just at the back of my mind going like, yeah, that's good. That's gonna be yummy. Um, so there's got to be something wrong with humans. Maybe not. I don't know. Something needs to be fixed. And, there is GLP-1s or whatever. Omeprazole. Is that what it's called? Omeprazole? Ozempic. Omeprazole is like a stomach thing, I think, because I had to take that because I had stomach problems. But I don't even know if it helped. Half of pharmaceuticals feel like they're just sugar pills that trick your mind into thinking that they helped you. Yeah, that did something, right? Yeah, right? I just had a Big Mac. I feel like my back feels better. Should I go get the chicken? Um, which I feel like that's probably not true, but shit, it might be. So what is that? Come on, what is that? But yeah, I mean that was just sort of me ranting on why when I go to fast food do I get an amount of food that make me want to go to sleep for 8 hours. Being at the point where you're so full where it's uncomfortable to exist is not a point. I feel like I should have if I have a biological indicator to tell myself to eat more, I should have a biological indicator to tell myself to stop because holy, like or maybe I'm just someone that my biological indicator was either taken out at birth, something happened, or my biological indicator is way too late. It is a lagging indicator. I'm getting that tell at like hour 1. I should be getting that at minute 10. What is happening? But I'm sort of just complaining to complain because I'm in a very privileged position where I can eat a lot of Popeyes, I guess. um, but I do not want to. That has been my New Year's resolution since I've known what New Year's resolutions are. Eat healthier. Going through college and trying to eat healthy. Oh my god. You're right next to a 7-Eleven trying to eat healthy? What? It's pie day. We're getting a free pizza. Um, Come on, get out of here. So that's interesting. But yeah, shout out. Let me know in the comments what you be grubbing on because I probably agree. Unless it's what do I have? Honestly, hot take. I think meat lovers pizza is too much. I love a veggie pizza. I'm someone that comes from the camp of food scale 1 through 10. Pizza on the food scale falls on the 7. No, no, no. Pizza is between a 6 and a 9 on the food scale, always, with very few exceptions. I make one exception for a place in my college town that I think may be a 5 on the food scale, which is very poopy. I would put 7-Eleven pizza as a 6 out of 10 on the food scale. But that might just be my caveman brain speaking, slash you know, for the pockets. Like, I am someone that thinks food tastes better when it's cheaper slash free. I don't know. I don't know if that it, it might change. Like being in college, definitely like that is true. But being a now having a full time job, I wonder, does that change? I don't think so. I mean, if I get like my parents or someone buys me food, it's tasting better. And I'm telling them it's tasting better. If someone buys me food, I'm telling them this food is good. If someone makes me food, I'm screaming this food is good because that is a very special thing. Um, you know. Oh, this is actually a really funny thing. Um, because it just happened. I think being in a social group, when you run out of things to say, one of my favorite things is when you run out of things to say, what do you talk about? Because like people will be like on a roll, and then there's often like a 20-minute lull, is what my dad likes to say. It's like after a certain amount of time, sort of socially, you are guaranteed for everyone just to like all somehow like the planets aligning every 20 minutes. Everyone stops having, I don't know what it is, their brains all shut off or something, where everyone there's just a second where everyone's like and I honestly partly think it's like people taking a rest from like laughing or like yucking, but um I love to see, because I'm in this camp a little bit, I love to see the people that are somewhat uncomfortable with silence trying to fill that lull. And I found myself, one of my most recent experiences with this 20-minute lull was I found myself talking about furniture. Like you'll get to a point where you're like, man, what's up, blah 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 blah. And then people stop talking, and you're like, hey, that's a pretty cool table. Which starts a new conversation in itself. But uh, it's always funny to see where people go, because some people are frantic to try to find the next thing. I'm trying to get better at that. I think I am better than I used to be, because I used to be like allergic to silence. Um, right? I get it. Blah. Um, so that's interesting. In terms of, oh, we may be, yeah, this is what I want to get wasted about. And today, guys, I'm feeling like low key. I'm feeling like a wordster. Um, I just felt like it was a relatively productive day. I got outside. I went to the gym. Uh, just overall, pretty happy with it. I didn't feel too groggy. I was able to sleep in a little bit. Like, I kind of felt a little like, that's good. That's good. So I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. In terms of what I want to get wasted about today, pass it back to you. Pass it back to me. It's back to me. All right. I'm going to get wasted about the miscommunication trope in movies. Makes me want to run through a brick wall because I think it is one of the most overdone things in it. I don't know why. When I'm watching a movie and they try to throw in a little cheap laugh, and it's like, hey, well, I'm talking about going on a hike. Hey, I thought you were talking about like, and then it goes on. It always goes on way too long for my liking, at least. Some people love it, maybe. I don't know. Let me know as well. Um, that is one of the things where I'm like, ugh. Something in Hollywood's got to change. Someone's got to rewrite some of the constants. I want less miscommunication tropes. I want more. Um, I love when this is completely a different genre, but I love when the the like the s- the humble master finally unsheathes their sword, and they like go crazy in like some kind of way, either like with the pen or with the sword, where like in an action movie they go crazy in a fight scene, or in like um more of a drama they're able to like pop off in like a wordsmith way. um that is one of my favorite tropes. So if comedies can work that in a little bit and kind of the miscommunication trope, goodbye me. In terms of life, episode 7, y'all, wasted words. Yeah, that was sick.